Hey, welcome back to the channel. Per user request, the request was if we can do this project, but with VR. So let's see if we can convert this to using Unity's XR system. Now, VR is where I cut my teeth. It's where I first started with game development on the Oculus Go. So I'm pretty familiar with VR. Some things to know. If you've never done VR before, it's actually really easy to get into. I would say it's even easier to get into and get going than traditional game dev in Unity. It's just harder because you have to have a VR headset and a PC that can handle it. Otherwise, to test things, it's really annoying. So we're going to attempt to convert our playground scene into Playground XR scene, which I actually did this whole tutorial already, but the audio sounded like garbage, and so now I'm starting over, and hopefully it'll also be a lot shorter because the video is almost an hour long, and I'm going to cut out some of the stuff because I'm just going to assume you know how to do it. And if not, you can figure it out. The first thing is, if you haven't already done it, you need to import from the package manager in Unity Registry, get the plugin management, get the XR Interaction Toolkit, get the OpenXR plugin, get the Oculus XR plugin, and on the Interaction Toolkit, get the starter assets. In the starter assets, what you'll want to do is you'll want to go into the, where's it at? Well, when you can't find it, just search the word left or right, find the default left controller, stop the search, and where we want to be. We're in Samples, XR Interaction Toolkit 232 Starter Assets. So you want to find the default left controller and set it as default. Mine says remove because I've already added it as default. And then right controller, also added as default. And then we got to remove, well, no, let's not remove anything yet. We would go into the project settings, go to your preset manager. You'll now have the right and left here, but you need to write right and left here. Then what we need to do is we need to convert our scene to be ready for XR. So take your playground scene, go to File, go to Save As, and add a little XR tag to it. So I'm going to show you the things that we get rid of. You're going to get rid of the main camera. You're going to get rid of the player follow camera. We never used this UI Canvas starter assets input joysticks thing, so we didn't do anything for mobile. You're going to get rid of the event system. And yeah. So then what we're going to do is we need to convert all of our current canvases to support VR. So I'm done looking at this scene now, so we're going to remove that. Let's go see the changes that I already made. So on all your canvases, now if you're creating a canvas for the first time for your VR project, it's easy. You right click, you go to XR, and then you add a UI canvas. And what it does is it creates you a world space canvas. It sets the main camera as the event camera, and it adds the track device graphic raycaster. But if you're converting a project and you already have the canvases set up, then you just go to the name entry canvas, or go to your canvas, change it to world space, put in your main camera from your XR origin right there. Main camera, we didn't add the XR origin yet. So let's add the XR origin, right click XR, add the XR origin. Then when you have it in the scene, you have your main camera. All right, so then one thing you also need to do is when you first convert your overlay canvas to world space, make sure it's active first, because if you try to change it to world space and then activate it, you won't have any like dimensions to your canvas. So make sure you activate it first before you convert it to world space. Add the track device raycaster. And then if you've already got your UI looking exactly how you want it, you don't want to really try to mess with widths and heights and everything. It kind of jacks it up. Unless you're dealing with layout groups, in which case you're probably going to have to adjust widths and heights. But the quickest, easiest way to get your screen space or overlay camera looking as good in world space is to just adjust the scale. And your scales are usually going to be really tiny. I mean, this is 0.0025 to get it the way that I want it to look. All right, so I did that for all my canvases, and I positioned them in world space. Like here, you can see the name entry canvas. Okay, it's in world space over here. All right, let's take a look at our XR origin. So it's here in the scene. I have it at 0, 0, 0. And on the tracking origin mode, I like to set it at floor most of the times because that's going to determine like where your player height is going to be. So if it's a shorter player, then that's where your camera height is going to be. Traditionally, when you're building an XR game, most people avoid full body avatars. We're going to keep ours just so that you can see how annoying it is. Most people, what they would do is they would spawn in a player head that they would make a child of the main camera. And so just it would automatically move the head with the camera. And then they would spawn hands onto the controllers. So whenever you move the controllers, the hands would also move. We're going to attempt to use our full body avatar. Good luck us. Another thing you need is a keyboard. It's relatively easy to make a keyboard. So you can see in my channel, I do have a tutorial on how to make a VR keyboard in Unity. It's actually kind of fun because then you can actually customize it exactly how you want. So check it out. But what I will do is, if you join my Patreon, and if right now I'm drinking coffee, you might be drinking coffee too, but maybe your coffee's from Dunkin' Donuts or from Starbucks and it cost you $3, $4. Well, you know what? That $3, $4 could have given you a month subscription to my Patreon, where I will be putting all of my keyboard assets, and it's an ugly keyboard. You'll see it here in the scene. As a quick, easy to use Unity package on the Patreon, so you can implement it and cut it up and edit it however you want to make it work. So with my keyboard, it needs to know what the active input field is. So what I have on my input fields is there's already an event for onSelect. So onSelect, it tells my keyboard manager what the current input field is. Actually, it doesn't. It tells my keyboard manager to go find out what the current selected game object is, which will be that input field. And so that's how our keyboard works. Okay, and also, whenever you added your XR origin, one quick way to have logic to actually move your player around is to add a locomotion system. And so I did that by right-clicking, go to XR, and then we want locomotion system action-based. Now what it does is it actually creates a teleport snap turn locomotion system. And so what I did is I just right-clicked those snap turn and teleport components, remove them, and then I added in the continuous move provider action base because I'm using the new input system, and continuous turn provider action base because I'm using the new input system. And then what you might want to do is on the locomotion system, drop in your XR origin. I think it finds it at runtime too, but just to be safe. And then on the continuous move provider and continuous turn provider, drop your locomotion system in here just by dragging it and dropping it. Pretty sure it finds it at runtime too. Also change the move speed to something higher than 1 because 1 is crawling. I usually go at least 3. And tell it what you want your forward source to be. Do you want the controller where it's pointing forward to be the forward movement of your player? Or do you want it to be based on the player's face, which would be the camera? So I drug in the main camera there. And then you need to tell a continuous move provider which input action do you want to use for movement. So you check the use reference box and then you find, because we installed the starter assets from the XR interaction package, it's got everything already set up for you. And so just choose left hand locomotion move, and that'll be the left joystick. And then on the turn provider, on the right hand turn action, check reference, and then choose right hand locomotion turn, and that'll be the right joystick. It's all set up for you. You don't have to go in there and set it up. So our scene is looking pretty good. We deleted a lot of stuff like the cameras. So that means we had to change some stuff up on our player, and I pretty much gutted the player. So on the player, we originally had like a third-person character controller, gone. Right-click on it, remove it. We had a starter assets input script, gone, remove it. We had our player input component, gone, remove it. Speaking of, add the player input component back to something else in your scene, which I usually like to put on the XR Interaction Manager, and then set the actions on the player input to, if you're like me, use the XRI default input actions. Okay. And then if we go back to our player, everything else is the same. Yeah, so the only thing that we're now going to do is we now need to figure out whenever we enter the room, because the player is not finding the camera anymore, how is the avatar going to move with our camera? So I wrote a little script and we're going to look at it together since I already wrote it and I don't really feel like writing it again. So I just called it player follow XR. And I put it in my scripts folder. And I just drug it onto my player. And so let's go take a look at player follow XR in Visual Studio. And what we need is 2 private transforms. We need our XR origin and we need our looker. All right. And then what is our looker going to be? So on our XR origin, on our main camera, we want something for our avatar to be looking at so that it knows where the forward direction is. So when we're wearing our VR headset, this is the main camera and this is the forward direction. So when this turns this way, we want our avatar to turn that way. But since the camera and our avatar are going to be pretty close as far as like X and Z are concerned, I want to move the looker in front of the camera so that's out further from the avatar, so it's a bit easier for the avatar to tell where it should be rotating to look at. And so I created an empty game object on the main camera called looker, and I put a little gizmo identifier on it so I can see it in the scene, and it just comes out. I guess I could put an actual number. I just drug it out to where it looked good, but we'll put it 1 meter ahead of the camera. And so then in our script, we need to, I also have a bool for has state authority because this script is on the player and all the players are the same. And so when they get instantiated into the scene, all the logic's going to get ran by everybody. So we need to make sure this is only getting ran by the person who owns the player. So on start, we first check, do we have state authority of the network object that's on this game object? So we had to include fusion. And so has state authority bool equals get component, the network object, and then we check that network object for if we have state authority of it. If we do, this will be true. If we don't, it'll be false. So if it's true, then we're going to find the XR origin. So GameObject.find XR origin, then we're going to get its transform. And the looker, same thing. GameObject.find, find the looker, transform. This is something you definitely don't want to be doing. You don't want to be getting components. You don't want to be finding game objects a lot. This is just at start. We're doing it once. On update, we already know if we have state authority or not. So if we have state authority, then we're going to do this stuff. So the transform of our player, the avatar, its position, we're going to make equal to our XR origin's position. So how is that going to work? Well, our XR origin is always essentially touching the ground. Let's turn off those gizmos. All right, it's always on the ground. The only thing that really moves is our main camera. So our main camera will go up and down based on the height of the player. But our XR origin is always going to drag on the floor. And also, our player, same thing. Its pivot point is also on the floor. So that's why we can just set the position to be the XR origin. Then what we want to do is we want to look at that target we made, that looker. So we have a new vector 3 called target. And so we just get the looker's current position. But we don't want to look where its position is. Otherwise, our avatar is going to kind of lean backwards to have its feet point up in the air because our floating camera head has the little green diamond thing a meter ahead, and it's looking up in the sky to look at that thing that's above it. So what we're doing instead is we already have the vector 3 of the position of the looker, but we're just changing the Y value to what our Y value already is of our player, which is at our feet. And so now that we have our new target position, we just tell our player to look at that new target vector that we created, or vector 3 rather. So if I come in here now and if I hit play, all right, so let's bring our game window up here. I'm not wearing the VR headset, but we can get around that for right now. So I can go to my camera offset and I can just adjust it like that. And if I click on my input field, and I'm just gonna put junk in here and create our room and everything like we did with our flat screen versions. All right, so we're in. I should probably put some logic to hide the keyboard. But I'm going to drag the game window down here so we can see what's going on. All right, so our avatar spawned. And you see our UI elements are trying to look at our own camera, which we should have those be disabled if we own them, right? But now if we go to my XR origin, if I move my XR origin, look, the avatar moves with us. And it's not a child. This is the avatar here, this PU. It's not a child of the XR origin. It's just following, okay? So I can move the XR origin around, and then the avatar will always be with us. And if we rotate, the avatar is also going to rotate. All right, so that is all we're going to do in this bit. I know it's short, quick, and faster than what I normally do, but I am really tired despite how fast I'm talking, and I already spent over an hour recording this tutorial already, and it would have just been super boring. But I feel like you can figure out this much of it by watching this quick little video. And here's what we're going to attempt to do next. We're all going to attempt to go to my Patreon page and subscribe for at least $3.60 a month. That affords me a coffee a day. So when I'm tired like today, I can keep going and make these wonderful videos. What I like to do is I like to try to bust out several on Monday, and I might only get to one because I'm running low on coffee. I'm looking at my coffee pot over there and it is empty. So help a brother out. But what we're going to attempt to do after that is we want to animate when we walk. So if I turned on my controllers right now, which I don't know, if I use my arrow keys, no, it's not gonna work. But if I have my controllers right now and I started walking, the XR origin would start moving around. If I use my right joystick, I would rotate and it would look great. But the things that we're gonna wanna do now is, how are we gonna handle different heights of the player? should we, instead of setting the tracking origin mode, the tracking origin mode to floor, should we set it to device and then just set the camera offset to match the height of this avatar's head? Maybe we'll do that. We want to make the walking animation work, which we should be able to do just fine, like we normally would. We probably want the head to move to look where the player's looking, although if we just have the whole body rotate, that kind of works cheaply too. But you might already be seeing why a lot of people avoid full body and instead just have a floating head and torso, because then you can just make it attached to the main camera. And so then whenever your headset moves around, your avatar moves around with it. And you can also just spawn hands in where the controllers are. That way when the controllers move around, your hands also move around. But we're going to attempt to use this full body character. A great tool that helps with this. Let me show you that real quick. Okay, and that's Final IK by Root Motion. I'll put a link in the description. If you use my link in the description, I get a little bit of a kickback as an affiliate link. But if $90 is too rich for your blood, just wait. Keep an eye on it. It's on sale probably 4 times a year, half off. So just keep an eye on that. But Unity has its own built-in animation rigging, and I actually did some tutorials on it. And look at this, I have a whole VR playlist with like 19 videos. Boy, there's some fancy thumbnails, but I think it's this one. You can actually see how to use Unity's animation rigging to actually control the arms and the head and all that. The problem with this is I can't get it to work anymore. I have no idea why. And that's what actually forced me to learn Final IK, because I was in the middle of a project and I was confident I could do it because I'd done it tons of times before using Unity's animation rigging, and it just didn't work anymore. So I had to find another solution. And Final IK is really nice that when you figure it out, it is really just drag and drop and it just plays. But there's still some things about full body avatars that you just can't get quite right. And that's like clipping through your body, clipping through objects in the scene. It just depends how picky you are with how your players look. But what we will probably try to do first is we will probably try to use Unity's animation rigging to allow the movement of our controllers to control the hands and the arms of the avatar. You would think that we could just like take the bone of the hand and like make it a child of the controller, but it doesn't work that way. Especially since we're using an animated character anyways. That's why we have to use Unity's animation rigging to kind of override the animated controller, what it's trying to do, and change it up a bit with our own movements. But anyways, that's a really long outro. Sorry if this was too short for you. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Check me out in Discord. Message me in Discord. Become a Patreon. Join a special Discord channel. Become a YouTube member. Get a special Discord channel. And we'll see you next time when we really dive into the scary stuff of trying to deal with full body avatars. But that's the only scary part about VR. The rest of VR is really easy. See you later.